time is fleeting and every minute should count. So how I approach an event is someone has made a choice to come and spend time with you. So make sure we as event producers or people in this industry are always thinking of that.
Welcome to No More Bad Events, a fun and insightful podcast for professional event organizers and for anyone at any level interested in producing nothing but the best events. Each week, we'll talk with legendary event professionals to get an inside look into what they think makes a great event. And in the process, we'll draw out insider secrets, non-traditional approaches, and compelling stories from the most captivating personalities in the business. We'll definitely get the skinny on reaching that one big goal: no more bad events. I'm your host, Scott Bloom, comedian, event MC, and now your podcast host. Let's get started. No More Bad Events is produced and presented by eSpeakers, the most trusted, easy-to-use, full-service online platform for finding, connecting with, and hiring the best keynote speakers, hosts, and presenters in the world. With the deepest catalog of professionals available through the eSpeakers marketplace, you can be assured that the speaker you book will be the absolute best speaker based on your goals, bar none. eSpeakers, the #1 way to find your next perfect speaker. For more information, go to espeakers.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to No More Bad Events. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm thanking our regular listeners, but I also want to put out a special thank you to our new listeners. I know we definitely have some new listeners to the show today because my guest straddles that line between influencer and event producer. And the reason he's so successful on social media, why he's so successful as an event producer, is he is passionate and enthusiastic and thrilled to do what he is doing. Of course, I'm talking about the extremely charming and charismatic Eric Rutherford. In addition to Eric's fan base, I'm sure we have a lot of new event professionals who are listening and curious about what he has to say about producing star-studded red carpet events and giving those fans and clients the absolute best experience. Eric is currently an executive producer at 1540 Productions, an experience and integrated activations agency for global brands. In addition, what can I say? He's an ex-Hollywood man about town, currently living in New York City. And as I mentioned, he's a social media mega influencer with 500,000 followers and counting. He's known as Mr. Rutherford on all the social platforms, and he's got some amazing content. Eric's an absolute expert at capturing moments leading up to the greatest events, giving guests, fans, and friends an exclusive look on social media at what it really takes to pull off the most memorable moments. Eric talks about how pulling back the curtains on those moments foster inclusivity, which naturally fosters more love for the brand. He talks about his role as an event producer to go beyond just doing a job, but to always be mindful of the guest or fan. He talks about finding every imaginable way to immerse them in the experience. He's so much fun and has so much to share about producing great events. Okay, let's do this. I think it's time. If you guys are ready, lights, camera, action. Get ready to go behind the event scenes with the Hollywood handsome Mr. Rutherford. It's interesting. So you started out as, going into acting and then, transitioning into modeling. Social media wasn't around when you started doing acting. I know social media is a big part of your life. Yes. You were, as they call in the biz, you might even be a social media influencer. When do you cross over to influencer? How does that happen?
Oh gosh. Funnily enough, I was just talking about this last night with a friend of mine who has won an Academy Award and a Tony Award. I mean, it was very funny. We were just talking about what does it mean to be an influencer? And, for me, first off, I should say to be of influence, I have always looked at someone who has an extraordinary talent, whether it is as a doctor or a teacher or as a playwright or as a singer or as a basketball player or something, right? Someone who is a leader, who is an example of doing great things, right? And it doesn't have to be on a grand scale. It certainly doesn't have to be on a global scale. It could be in your local community. And, so this whole idea of an influencer, I kind of fell into it. I was doing events. I was director of events at the Hollywood Reporter. And this was a few years ago. And I've always, like I was saying, I've always been in the arts. I've always been a storyteller. I love taking pictures or participating and certainly grew up doing it in front of the camera. And so, being behind the scenes, I love capturing what it takes to put on an event, and that beginning, middle, and an end, that load in and putting things together. And I would post. And, sometimes it'd be pictures with celebrities behind the scenes. Sometimes it would just be us, at the end of the event, congratulations, but sharing those moments. And I started having brands reach out to me because at the time, again, this was like 8 years ago, I think at this point, I think I was 47. So, late 40s. And certainly,
that's a big deal. Late 40s, getting into social media, becoming a social media influencer at that age. It's a young person's game.
Oh, you literally just took, when I started doing this, and I'd say it too, I even said it a few weeks ago to a friend who was asking me about my background. I said I was an old man in a young man's game, but that is what made me of influence at that time, that I was living the life that I lead. And and I've always been a proponent of sharing my experience. Just from my background of growing up, I felt somewhat isolated or alone, whether it's because I was doing theater as well as playing football. And, at the time, Glee didn't exist. So it was two separate worlds. And, and I had some challenges growing up and I came out very young. And so for me, my platform has always been about openness and positivity and sharing kind of the journey along life. And so that has always been how I've represented myself. And so brands responded to that, and they responded to this, older guy who's kind of lived a good life, a positive life, and is still learning and is still sharing that. And so brands like that, and they started reaching out to me, and slowly but surely I started gaining followers. And I saw an opportunity, and I will say, today it may not look like it, or for those that are listening, at that point in my life, you could almost say I had a pompadour, or I have, as people would say, he's got damn good hair. Mm-hmm. I have a good head of salt and pepper hair. And so combined with my age and my hair, all of a sudden I had a new career. And so, not to knock it, but it opened a door for me. And, I've always been someone who believes that we all as individuals have something to share. We all have a story to share, and there's a value in sharing it. And so when these doors started opening, I said, what, I'm going to step into this. I'm going to participate. I want to be a part. And again, for me, social media, yes, there are negatives, certainly. And I'm not naive to those. But I think the positives that come from social media and impacting others and sharing stories and learning, so much of it is about learning on social media. And so then I kind of fell into it. And then it just I became an influencer. I signed with a huge agency. And the wonderful thing is I was bringing all my experience, when I would partner with a brand, it will say as I was a face of the brand, but I was bringing my understanding of what a brand was looking for, whether it was in the content creation or how we promoted something, because of my experience doing events.
So you were almost producing your own social media account. You were working and collaborating with their creative team.
Absolutely.
Because you have that experience. So tell me, we'll get back to the social media thing, because I want to know how that now affects your events. But tell us a little bit about when you're working as director of events at the Hollywood Reporter. What was your main role there?
Well, again, now, I'm realizing in saying that I've led I'm grateful for all the opportunities, and I've led, I won't say a blessed life, but I've certainly, it was something that, I'd built a reputation in the event industry, and the person who was running that division there, Curtis, a wonderful person, reached out to me and said, will you come help us? Because it was right at the beginning of their rebrand. And so they said, well, you come help us for a few events, like for a month. And I ended up being there for 2.5 years.
This is the Hollywood Reporter.
This is the Hollywood Reporter. And during that time, it was all things that I love, certainly in life, but also too about the entertainment industry in Hollywood, because it was about movie making and television and writers and photographers and talent, in front of and behind the camera. And so a lot of our events were based on supporting those, whether it was a premiere or a roundtable or, a luxury brand would want to participate somehow or support a new film or support a cast or an up and coming talent or something. So we would do these roundtables, or we would host an event, or we had this, which has become a tentpole, women entertainment event at the end of the year, where we would honor women, whether it was with a Sherry Lansing Award or people like Oprah or Diane Keaton or something like that. So it was really a wide range of events that we were about, again, both big and small. And it was a fantastic time to be there.
Seems like it definitely fueled your creativity. It took all your history of everything that you were doing. You were involved in entertainment. So you're probably like a perfect fit. You stayed there for a while. Then I see that this sort of social media thing started picking up. You started doing more modeling. You were probably needed more as the face of, as opposed to behind the scenes.
Yes.
But now you've transitioned back into the role as producer. I'm sure you're still doing your social media influencing. How did your experience as a social media influence shape your transition back into producing live events?
Again, I've always believed from everything that we experience, there's a moment to learn, and we can build our tool bag, as I like to call it, our toolkit in life. And again, it was a natural shift for me to step back into it. I've known Craig, who started 1540 Productions before it even existed. So we've been friends. It was a friendship long before I came back to start working for them. And as so many of us were affected by the pandemic, and both for me, it was a shift in partnerships, and it was also just a shift in my own consciousness. Like, what did I see myself doing in the next 5 years? And I love the partnerships and the opportunities that came about. And I also wanted to have something more consistent, you could say, more solid, something that I enjoy doing. And so I ended up reaching out to Craig because they do, 60 to 70 events in New York. And I had just relocated to New York as a base because I've always wanted to live here. And it was one of those scratches that I wanted to itch. Or itches that I wanted to scratch.
Yeah, one of the two, either one.
One of the two. And so it was a natural fit, and what has now, and I was a part of it, where, anytime you were doing a premiere, it began to like, oh, we've got to do this thing on Facebook, or, and Instagram didn't even exist when I first started doing it. And now it's all of a sudden, what's the social campaign? What's the social aspect? How are we telling the story, and how are we promoting it? And so for me now, with the experience that I had, as we'll say, being in front of the camera, to actually bring all of that now in producing events and having an understanding of what the studio or the streamer was looking for, or be able to capture the content myself, certainly I will say for our audience, both as 1540 and as well as myself, what I try to maintain is certainly to show people what it's like to be there, and also to share what it's like to produce it.
Actually, let's talk a little bit about that. How do you leverage your social media following, first of all, to promote and market the live events that you produce? And how has that changed your sort of creative focus on what you expect the audience, what the audience wants? I'm sure you're delivering it from a different point of view than a typical producer who's just been in live events.
Absolutely. it's a balance, because, for me before, where I was showing up just representing myself, right. And I'd be invited by a studio, and it would be to promote the film. Whereas now I'm showing up as part of a team. So, and to also support whatever film or show that we are there to support. So the lens, I'll still capture content. And this is something that I certainly learned in the years that I've been doing it is, every brand has a focus, and what they want to present. And I would always say to a client, it's better to capture more content than less, because that gives you more options. And because there are so many different ways to share that and on the different platforms, Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, all very different, still the same, still a way of sharing and communicating, but just formats are different and audience is different. So for me, when I'm showing up at 1540, I will both capture content from my point of view, because certainly my followers connect that. They like that personal connection. But then also as a company, you want to show what goes into it, but also the end result. You want to show, that beautiful step and repeat in the work that's gone into it. And also that it's showing, what the film is about.
So if you're focusing, let's say, on the different platforms, as far as content, what is specific about the live event? What focus are you focusing there to give them an experience that is going to have an impact on them, the same way you're picking and choosing content for your platforms?
There's so many ways to connect to an audience. You truly can go live now and literally be live with your followers or with crew, and studios do it all the time. And you see people doing interviews, and which often are taped, but then also going live to actually bring the audience there so that they're experiencing it in the moment. For us right now, it's what I would do is it's how I would approach it. It's how I would shoot something. It's me literally being on the carpet. We had an event last night, and it's weaving your way in and out, giving them, both the audience and your client, a perspective maybe that they're not able to capture, because I'm able to move around, or our crew, we have a social team that's fantastic, that is producing some exhilarating content, which really captures the energy of these events that we're producing. So I try to do the exact same thing.
What is it like working for a company like 1540? It's a company that creates events for, global companies, but also premiere events. We'll talk a little bit about that, movie premieres and other star-studded events, big things that are going on in New York City, where everything happens. So how has this affected your career within the events industry, moving into this role?
Well, first off, I want to say it's a thrill for me to be working with 1540. First off, because of my friend Craig. And then I have friends there too. And Dwayne, and there's a list of people that we've been friends and in this industry for 25, 30 plus years. So it's not just a company for me. I take it's certainly professionally. I have such a respect for what they've created and what Craig has created and the whole team there. I mean, there's 100 plus employees that are working there. And then also personally, I take it because of the relationship. But, so much of this industry, well, any industry that you're in, to me, it's about those relationships and building those relationships, because so often you are there, certainly because of someone's talent and their skills, but also because you trust them, because they care, that they're passionate about creating certainly an experience, but also the level of excellence that they're going to bring to the carpet, to creating a photo moment, to creating an in-person, fan experience or whatever it might be. And to me, 1540 is the best of the best. When they started, I remember having this conversation with Craig, actually, even a few weeks ago. At the time, there were some big names, and I won't name those names, but they were the ones, they were the leaders in this industry, and they were really they had set the bar for what it was. And they were great. It was very successful. And then Craig started the company, and he saw space to elevate certainly the arrivals experience, where it could become interactive, where it wasn't just a flat wall, but three-dimensional, where you could have cars or a life-size airplane or a rocket ship or a whole dance routine or whatever it might be. You could have those on the carpet, not just inside the theater. So as he began to grow this company, and to this day that we're doing it, it lifted the entire industry up to where now you see everyone is doing that. And the opportunity is to continue to expand. And that's why for me to be with 1540 at this moment, there's such an excitement that's happening, whether it's because, I talked earlier about people are craving, the audience is craving for in-person events. They're craving for an extension of, maybe it's from their favorite film, or maybe it's for their favorite TV show, but to be able to step into that in something that's in person and engaging, that's really what we're leaning into, besides also doing incredible red carpet experiences too.
Well, just listening to you, I'm excited. I'm excited
Good.
for events. I mean, you said the key word there was to step into something. The buzzword is immersive. We want everything immersive, but it sounds like 1540 sort of raised the bar for everyone. It seems obvious now that, with social media and, another term people talk about, these parasocial relationships. People have a lot of parasocial relationships with you, Eric. They're following you around. They seem to know you, what you like, what you don't like. And, you also mentioned this idea of family and relationship. So are you also, is 1540 keeping that in mind to make a connection with the audience, make them feel they're really part of everything?
Well, I love that you're asking me that, because for me, I've always said one thing: I love doing events. If I haven't said it, or you can't hear it,
I hear it in your voice. I hope everyone hears it. This guy loves every aspect of events. Because as you said, you're the face of the event. You're behind the scenes. You're all wrapped into it because you don't look at it as work, right? This is fun. This is life.
Here's the thing is, and this is a perfect example. Yes, I do love it. Is it hard? Yes, it can be hard. Is it, some people are like, oh, it looks so glamorous. I mean, I know that's become like a stereotypical thing to say, right? Oh, it's so glamorous from the outside. Yes, it can be very glamorous. But I can also tell you, last night I was cleaning up dog shit.
Literally.
On Broadway, some person's dog had pooped right in the path of where guests were walking. Mind you, it wasn't anywhere near the step and repeat. But for me, the whole idea of a guest experience is from the moment, that initial touch point, right? From the moment they arrive at the space, to the invitation, to them entering into a building, a theater, a red carpet, whatever it is. We are involved with all of that. And all of that then connects to how you make that guest, that fan feel. They're coming because either they've been invited, or they're a fan, or they want to experience something that maybe they don't normally get to experience. So it is our role, it is our responsibility as event producers or people in the event industry to be understanding of that, to be empathetic to that, to always have that kind of mindset. Yes, we're there to do a job. We've been there hired to either do a premiere or create a fan experience. For me, it is always about how that fan is going to experience, what they're going to touch, what they're going to feel, what they're going to see. And ultimately, that they're going to take something away that they're going to remember and put a smile on their face. So I'm very passionate about that. And again, I've been doing this for a long time. Well, many of us have been doing this for a long time, but every chance, every new event, every next event, you have an opportunity to grow, to expand, to understand further how you can make a difference in that person's day. Because listen, it's life. I say this as a person in their 50s, right? Someone in their 20s or 30s may feel differently, but time is fleeting and every minute should count. So how I approach an event is someone has made a choice to come and spend time with you. So make sure we as event producers or people in this industry are always thinking of that. Yes, I understand maybe some events are more special, to others, but for me, it has always got to be about that. Even last night, we were doing an event. I could say it was another red carpet, right? But to me, every red carpet, every arrivals, every event is its own entity, right? I will never bundle them together because, again, they're all different. I was sitting there and one of the most recognizable actresses in the world, and happens to be one of my favorite actresses. So
come on, you're not gonna tell us? Is this? I mean, it's already happened. It's already happened.
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yes, and this was for her new movie.
For her new movie. So she shows up, and listen, I am still a kid. Part of the reason I loved when I started doing events was I loved being around Hollywood. I loved being around the storytellers. I love the magic of movie making and all that goes into it. So she's there. We're on Broadway. She's getting out of the car, and many, many fans, and which has been now very much a part of what arrivals we're incorporating as our fan pens, or we want the fans to be there too. Cause it's a moment, it's a touch point. So she gets out again, people are waiting, the press is lined up, the carpet's a decent size. It's not huge, but it's definitely a decent size. Right. And she gets out of the car and she's getting ready, and you can see all the PR, everyone's trying to do their job. Right. And they want to get there. They want to be respectful of her, the whole thing. Well, she gets out, there's a group of 10 to 20 young girls that are, behind the barricade, and they're screaming, mm-hmm. Jennifer, oh my God, Jennifer, screaming because she looks over and then they scream even louder, right? And again, I'm getting excited. I'm like, how wonderful, right? She's being, brought to the red carpet. She turns around and goes back down the carpet, goes back outside, and goes and takes pictures with every single one of those young girls.
Wow.
So again, we've seen, talent or celebrities, whatever, do that before. But for me, I was touched by her awareness of her fans, the people that love her, are inspired by her, get joy from her, appreciate her, and she was appreciating them. And you don't always see that. So she took that moment. She took the time. And again, it was only a few minutes, but she took the time to go and with every single one of those young girls. And again, minutes, seconds, took a picture, smiled, looked at them, laughed with them. And then she came out and then she walked in front of the press and the whole thing, whatever. Again, some people are like, oh, Eric, you're too silly, or you sound too nice, or I can't believe you're still kind of moved or affected by all this stuff. But I am, and that's what makes me excited to get up at 5:30 in the morning and go load in an event, or to work extra hard.
I love that idea of someone part of the event making that extra effort. You're putting in all that effort, everyone behind the scenes, but when you have the players actually doing something like walking over to these fans, and I'm sure you were able to capture that. Was a great moment, as well. And I think that's what events need more, is a little bit higher consciousness about the audience. I work with a lot of companies doing more, traditional corporate conferences and stuff like that. But what you're talking about at these fan events is the same thing that translates to those events, that people need to start, humanizing the company by their leadership, getting out there. Imagine a leader going over and making that effort to, being at the party, which a lot of times they just take off. So it's all those things that are important. The more companies are able to take a page from what you're doing, these fan events. I mean, the fans, you're in a different place there. The fans are already excited. So you're trying to keep that level of excitement up. But anything you can to draw them into the experience is, I think, really important.
Can I add something quickly to that? Because you had mentioned too, just about when CEOs get in front of companies and they're, in the teams, and if they could humanize themselves a little bit more. It's this word this last few years of authenticity, a brand's authenticity, a person's authenticity, truthfulness, openness, transparency, and that word has become part of the PR marketing, we'll say. Mm-hmm. Every HR person will say to their CEO or their president or leader or whomever, we're going to do a town hall because we want them to see how authentic you are. Absolutely. And then I would also say is to then truly be authentic, because it's not just a label. It's not just performing authenticity, because what I have learned, certainly in the last few years, we'll say being on both sides, is the audience gets smarter and smarter every day. They can sense it.
They know when you're presenting authenticity.
Yes. And so that's why even with these events, right? You can sit around a table or on a Zoom and kind of throw all these things out that, this will really connect, or this or something. Sometimes it's the simplest thing, like what we were just talking about is, where Jennifer went over and connected to her fans. And again, I say it, they're people. They're here. We're all people. I know that sounds kind of crazy to say. We're all people. And that's one of the reasons, even in my early career, when I started doing events, was because I brought that sensibility with me, whether it's because I started as a young performer. So I had that idea of what it means to be a talent in a space, maybe in that they're still human. And so the most famous person in the world, they're still human. We're all human, whether it's the CEO or a studio head or the head of a production company or head of security or us working at 1540. We're all part of this, of creating this experience for people. And we're all doing it to create a moment so that people do have that authentic experience and then support a film or buy a product or something like that. But again, it's about creating that memory, like those young girls last night, they're going to remember that.
Yeah, she created an amazing emotional experience for them. And that's what we're trying to also bring back to these experiences, is an emotional connection to what's going on. Because then you feel something. When you feel something, you're going to remember something. It becomes a big memory. So tell us, the name of the movie was, what was it called?
The movie last night was No Hard Feelings.
No Hard Feelings. We don't need every detail, but I'd like an idea of how 1540 approached, let's say, this movie premiere. I know you did Asteroid City, and I have a couple of questions about that too.
Sure.
But take us through a little bit about, okay, you've gotten the gig. How are you going to make this specific? What is the creative process that goes into, where is the venue we're going to have? What's going to be special about it? And what is the relationship between you and, I guess, the film's marketing team?
The studio. So you always come together. Obviously, you have a meeting, and oftentimes we're coming to the point where whether it's a studio or a streamer, it's like, this is the artwork that's created. This is the campaign that's already created. So we'll start working within that to what they're looking to achieve on a step and repeat. And, say in New York, there's some of the key places that movies and streamers like to premiere, whether it's, Uptown, at AMC Lincoln Square or, Jazz at Lincoln so it's really the kind of moment that you're kind of creating. So last night, they wanted it to be outside because the weather is beautiful right now. And so we did a step and repeat. I think it was 50 feet. We did it both inside and outside. And we used the vibrancy of the artwork that they had created. So there was a yellow carpet versus a red carpet. So it really made the colors pop that were on the step and repeat. You're always trying to get the title treatment, obviously, in the photos that you're capturing. So we always work with them to achieve what they're looking to do. And then we try to bring an artistry or a level of creativity. So it's not just cut and paste from this one to that one. It's always got to stand on its own. Yes, there are key things that you always have to achieve. There's always going to be a top of the carpet. There's going to be an experience. There's going to be still crews. There's going to be interview crews. So you try to work those elements in. And so last night that we did that, and, with this yellow carpet, that was one of those elements for this film and this event last night that really popped. And so, today, you can go and look at kind of all the content that came out, whether it was, it's online or it's even pictures even that I shot last night or video that I shot last night. What really is popping and helping it pop is that yellow carpet and the tone that they did. And so we try to hit multiple goals when we're working with a client so that they're getting something out of it, but also elevating the experience.
Companies are always trying to maximize their social media, and it seems to always fall a little flat. We have the hashtags, and I don't know if it's that, in the corporate world, they're there. I mean, I remember when Facebook started, people are going, really? Corporations, Coca-Cola's doing Facebook. Now it makes, perfect sense, or Instagram. Any advice on how to make social media, bigger at an event, let's say more of a corporate event, which is a little bit more, it has a different vibe and feel?
Well, first off, you have to find someone who understands what it is. Because even now, I will, again, and whether it's, I'm 55, right? And I think I'm pretty good at it, but I'm still learning, and so what I would say to any company, or corporation, right, is make sure that you're hiring someone specifically to do that role that understands what it is to actually capture content for your company so that they understand the focus of the company. They understand the focus of whether it is an event or whether it's a speaking engagement or sharing content so that you're understanding how to put that story together, because I said earlier, platforms are very different. Obviously Facebook at one point, everyone had to be on Facebook. And now you say Facebook, and in all honesty, I couldn't tell you the last time I even checked my Facebook.
The Gen Z and young millennials don't use Facebook anymore. It's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's Twitter.
Yeah. So again, what I would also say, no matter what, it's about good storytelling. And that's always been, and that holds true in the entertainment industry, right? It's about good storytelling. It's about, good writing. It's all that. And it's the same for me in content creation. So it's finding someone who has that skill set, who has an understanding of your company, and making sure that they're capturing it and being really clear. Also, too, I find some people, again, they still don't quite understand how it works. So inform yourself, ask questions. Yes, maybe it's easy to back away from it because, you're in your 40s or your 50s or 60s or whatever, or you don't think it really pertains to you because someone else is doing it. But as anyone, if you're running a company or leading a team, isn't it best or wisest to have an understanding or surround yourself with people who do have an understanding of what you're doing and your objective so that you can ask those questions and then get those answers so that then you can pursue that goal?
I'd love to see at an event somehow social media almost as a concept to sort of flip it around, maybe make it, internal. Like there's some social media feed at the event that you're following. Maybe they hire some influencers, whether they're
they are doing that now. They absolutely do that now. You'll see again, like even last night, we had influencers showing up. They were walking the carpet. And I did see two influencers. I was watching, they were live streaming while they were walking the carpet, but very often the studios or streamers, they will have someone there stationed and they will be live streaming, or they'll be capturing content specifically for the social platforms from the studio or the streamer. So it's definitely being incorporated. Where what I hear you saying is it's how to even now evolve that, and how do you bring someone onto the carpet with you, or how do you even make it more of the moment or a different perspective as opposed to just kind of standing there,
So 1540 has been producing some great events. I know we talked about Asteroid City. That must have been a lot of fun. A Wes Anderson film. You have Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks was even in it, which was a departure. So what were some of your favorite moments or highlights from the Asteroid City movie premiere party?
Well, you kind of just listed it. I mean, again, to be this theater kid, and a lover of the industry, and I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. So even when this opportunity came up, and it was wonderful that the studio wanted to work with us, and so I was thrilled, and I jumped at the chance to be the producer. And so again, you try to take all that into effect. Again, he's such a stylish director and he creates these worlds. And so how do you translate that from film into an Arrivals and really be respectful of that? And you want to give it depth. And so we recreated, in 3D, a wagon, and we had a hotel from the film, and we had awning, and we created faux cactus so that they pop on the Arrivals and the step and repeats. And so we wanted to translate that. And so if you were actually staring at, and even Wes walked by, which again, I have to say, I was like,
it's been a great moment. Yeah.
It was one of those moments again, because we're still setting up and you're kind of, you're in your mode and your work mode and trying to get it done. And you want it to look incredible. And then to have the director of the film, of who you're there to support, walk by and stop and nod and say, God, that looks fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what you want to hear.
Yeah. Like you want to hear that. And again, it wasn't just me, because there's whole teams of people that help put that together, from our designers to our scenic team to even just the trucker that helped us get it there. Right. So I immediately kind of shared that feedback in that moment with them, because again, it's not to simplify what that is or just what it means to certainly me and even the team at 1540. Listen, we're there to do good work. We're there to do great work. And we're always looking to improve and to be better and to really support our clients more. And then to have that moment of just seeing that person, that creative, kind of turn and say, wow, basically saying thank you. And it was wonderful.
And 1540 is a big player in this market. I don't know if I could be as bold as saying a go-to event organization, event company, but what do you think separates 1540 from all the other event companies out there?
I think there's a lot of fantastic event companies out there. They've stepped up. They're creating their own visuals. They run great events. Where I think 1540 continues to be the best of the best is we certainly help raise the bar in both experiential, in visuals, in 3D elements, in our craftsmanship. Where we're continuing to grow and remain we'll say, a leader in this industry is we see the shift. We see the importance of interaction, of in-person engagement. And so we are looking to continually expand upon that. How do you create more touch points? How do you incorporate fans into the experience? How do you translate a TV show into something where the fans feel like they're living it? So we're always looking, Craig and I were having this conversation. He was joking. He goes, I love the industry. I've been in it for decades. He goes, I didn't think there was more that I wanted to do. And he has found this passion, again, we've been doing it for a long time, but he says every day now, he's even more excited about what we're able to do and what opportunities are coming. So we're investing in New York. We're looking to raise the bar again, for those in-person experiences. And I just think, we're excited about it. I think the entire company is. One of the things that became even more clear to me during the pandemic, right, when we're all isolating, is how are we connecting to each other? Reading the room, listening to someone who has a different experience than your own. Because again, I've certainly been doing this for a long time, but maybe there's someone that is brand new to this. And actually, believe it or not, I met someone last night. It was their first event and they were part of our crew. And I took a moment, because I was in my thing and, Jen was on the carpet and I was making sure that everyone was happy and studio things were running smoothly. And I'd taken, I'd paused, because I think you have to pause too. And I was taking it all in and I was watching and I then caught his eye, he's kind of back away and there was a sparkle in his eyes and he was taking it all in. And I walked over and I said, it's pretty cool, right? He goes, I've always wanted to be a part of something like this. And it goes, and I was like, really? And he said, yeah, this is my first event where I've got to help set it up from the beginning and to be there. And, whereas before he goes, I've always watched it on TV or I've been, behind in the fan pen or at the barricades or something along those lines. And he goes, to actually be a part of what I'm watching right now. He goes, one, he said, I'm like, I'm proud of what you've done. He goes, absolutely. He goes, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about creating moments of awe and giving everyone the opportunity to have that. And I love the passion that you have for what it is that you do. It seems that permeates your whole company, and you may even be the fountainhead, or what do you call it, where it all sort of springs from. But I'm sure all of them and this idea that we're constantly evolving events. And we constantly have to be moving forward. We have to be listening to our constituents, to our audience. What is it they need? What does they want? And getting a chance to make them, giving them the same moment that producer had, just standing there. He was part of it, but the audience should have that same awe, should have that same twinkle in their eye. And I love where meetings are going now. It's a very exciting time. We need people like yourself to have that same sort of passion. And, you have all this glamour and these movie premieres, but I want to see people bring that same awe to the business world, to those corporate events where people are excited to be there. And it is almost a fan experience. That's a whole nother mindset to produce an event like that.
One thing I would say is my brother's a motivational speaker and he travels all over the country and he works primarily with people will say the financial world. So it's a very different mindset, we'll say. And one of the things that he constantly shares with me is he tries to bring that, and maybe it's not necessarily a level of fun, right? But excitement, passion, interest, caring, kindness, even, right? That you're there with other people, you're in a room with other people, having this moment, sharing this experience, that yes, we're all there. And, maybe you're there because you want to learn how to increase sales, or you're there to learn how to open a business, or again, whatever it might be. You're also there together and to learn from each other and to listen and to take in that moment that, yes, some people are like, it's work, or why do I have to go to this thing? Well, you know what? The wonderful thing is we are able to go to be together and to have that moment and to share that, whether it is at a movie premiere or whether it is a conference or whatever it might be. And, I would say to any brand, is to constantly remember that in-person meetings, in-person experiences are far, again, I'm certainly biased, are far more important. And the return that you're going to get from that investment is worth it.
100%. 100%. I'm working on a title for this podcast as we speak, and I'm leaning towards sharing moments of awe. And we'll see if that ends up. I'll talk to my marketing team. Eric, thanks so much for joining me on the show. Such a pleasure. Really.
Thank you. Listen, you're so good at this, and you create this feeling of warmth and excitement yourself. And so it was wonderful to come and share my excitement with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Eric. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much.
That's it for now. I've been your host, Scott Bloom, corporate event MC and comedic keynote speaker. And of course, your connoisseur of connections. Oh, by the way, if you're interested, you can book me for your next event on eSpeakers Marketplace at espeakers.com/marketplace. And if you like what you heard, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you loved what you heard, drop us a review and don't forget to share with your friends. No More Bad Events is produced and presented by eSpeakers. Thanks so much for listening. Now go out and make your event a great one.